Dear Father God, we come to you first to say we love you, and we just thank you so much for your love. Thank you for your grace and your mercy you show on us. Just pray, Lord, we just thank you for your presence here tonight. We thank you for your blessings in this community. We pray blessings over our parents and our students, our staff, faculty, our administrators. And we just, most importantly, God, we just pray that we glorify you in all we say and do tonight. And we pray your Spirit leads us and guides us this meeting. And we just thank you for loving us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. Thank you.
Call the roll. Did Chris say yours? He did so. Well, Mr. Light, I see a whole bunch of medals over there. I think we're gonna, something about DI?
Yes, sir.
Destination?
This is not Miss Cheek's first time to be in this room. Miss Cheek, if you'd come on up for just a second, yeah. I would do a great injustice if I tried to introduce her for all the accomplishments she's had over the years with Destination Imagination. We're glad you're here. We're glad you brought your folks, and I'm going to turn it over to you, Miss Cheek.
Well, we are so appreciative to be here. We've missed this opportunity of getting to say our kids they're working hard. They did a great job this year. We're back in person, full force, and we're so grateful to our community and our faculty for jumping right in and meeting needs where they were. And guess what? This year, I'm not going to do all the talking. I decided y'all heard me talk long enough, but we are so fortunate. We are taking 3 teams to compete in 4 challenges at Globals. Globals is back in person. And our kids have not eased up at all. We are still polishing and problem solving. So I would like to introduce Benton Hanner. If you'll come up. And then Benton, if you, the rest of the team, if you'll come up behind. These are our state, representing our great state. And they are coached by Jennifer Hanner and myself. And so, Benton, I'm gonna let you address our students.
Like Ms. Cheek said, I'm Benton. I'm a 7th grader at Wylie East Junior High. Our DI team, the Science Alliance, chose the service learning project where our task was to address a community need, and we're helping Rwanda Children Christian School in Africa by teaching them creative thinking skills over videos and Zoom. We also have an Amazon wish list that people have been buying things to help the campus. Our team members are Caden Copeland, Tyler Hawks, Noah Flores, Gentry Connor, Max Thornton, and Ariana Posh, and our coaches are Jennifer Hanner and Kim Cheek. Thank you all so much for financially supporting us and helping us along on our journey.
Now, do you want to go ahead and start with the next team? And we'll just
Yes, sir. Miss Jennifer is gonna get it. Oh, Jack is gonna get it. Thank you.
You want me to take a picture with just one team at a time? Or do you want? Okay, here we go.
However you want.
We're perfect. Here we go.
You got yours.
No.
And what Benton did not tell y'all is that we are actually headed to Rwanda June 1st. There's a couple of us that we're gonna go actually work face to face with the teachers and the 4th, 5th, and 6th grade students representing Wylie and our community, and super excited.
Okay, everybody look here. 1, 2, 3. Thanks.
Good job.
We have one team that could not join us tonight because our kids are so active in so many other things, and they're up at the PAC right now. And so we do want to recognize Metallic Chickens competing in the Scientific Challenge and in the Improv Challenge. And they're coached by Tanya McLegay, Melissa Bulls, Julie Page, and Michelle Burleson. And we have one more high school team, and Carly Buck, I believe, is our senior that is going to introduce the team. So team, if you will come follow behind. And they're coached by Valerie Anderson, Angel Buck, and Jessica Carpenter.
Hi, we are the Mutual Milkshakes. We are competing in the engineering challenge. In the engineering challenge, we have to build a structure that weighs less than 100 grams and holds as much weight as possible. At state, our structure weighed 64 grams and held 505 pounds. And we had a ratio of 8.25. We also have to write a story about how a legend overcomes an insurmountable obstacle. And I'm Carly Buck, this is Blaze Valentine, Mia Chavez, Ryan Ross, Seth Bergen, and Carson Wells, which is performing at the PAC in JV1 right now. Thank you for your support.
Where are y'all's coaches?
Valerie, quickly.
Yep.
On the way. It's a race.
All right, ready, 1, 2, 3, cheer.
I want to thank again Miss Cheek for all the work she does all year on this. Parents, thank y'all for the effort that you put into this. There's a lot that goes into DI, and parents and grandparents usually pitch in. So thanks for everything that y'all do. Thank you, Miss
We
Cheek.
hope to tell you good things in June.
Yes.
Quite a deal.
Good stuff.
Well, time for our open forum, and we've got a list of about 12 or 13 folks that want to share with the board. Just a reminder that it's not a question and answer period, it's just a chance for folks to share their thoughts with the board of trustees. Because of the large number, we're going to ask you to hold your comments to 3 minutes. Mr. Light's going to kind of help remind you guys of where that is. If your topic is not on the agenda, there will be no discussion about it. Personnel matters are done in executive session, just to let you guys know about that. Forget anything?
Thank you. Good.
All right. Nico Ruffin. Please, make your way up.
Hi, my name is Nico Ruffin, and I am a student of Ms. Parrish's. When I heard that Ms. Parrish was getting fired, I couldn't believe it. I wanted to share how it has affected me. When I first met her, she was very kind, funny, but tough. Not only is math my favorite class, but Ms. Parrish is also my favorite teacher. She always takes care of all her students. She makes us feel safe. She listens to us, comforts us when we need it the most. I love that she doesn't let us talk down of ourselves. She always makes sure to lift us up and to help and to have self-love. She is a great influence. Ms. Parrish is more than a teacher. She has taught me that grades are important. Self-love is a must. She has inspired me to be the best me I could ever imagine, and that anything is possible if I work hard, stay positive, and treat others how I want to be treated. I really wish the school would think about it more and not fire Ms. Parrish, because I think she belongs here, and the kids need her more than we could ever imagine. She treats us like her own kids. She even goes to our sporting events to cheer us on and support us outside of school. This makes me feel loved and important. She is a very good person and teacher at the Wylie East Elementary. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nico. I'm sorry?
Lorraine.
Oh, Lorraine Bowler.
Yes. Hello, my name is Lorraine Bowler, and my son Nico Ruffin is a student of Mrs. Jordan, Mrs. Parrish, and Mrs. Rhodes. So where do I start? What's going on? How did this happen? Why is Nellie Parrish getting fired? How do you determine a teacher not being good for a school district? Has she had multiple offenses and write-ups? How has she made it 20 years as a teacher if she is as bad as they're making her out to be? How do you expect a teacher to hold it together after being fired in the middle of a day on Thursday? I guess I'm not quite sure of their answers, so let me tell you some of my thoughts. A few words I think of when I hear the name Nellie Parrish. Honorable, confident, generous, courageous, inspiring, and a woman of God. Nellie Parrish has been such a blessing, not only in my life, but more importantly, in my son Nico's life. Last year at Wylie East Elementary, Nico had a difficult year with one specific teacher. She was rude, condescending, negative, and it was affecting him emotionally and physically as well. I went to the school, talked to the principal, had a conference with his teachers, and they brushed it off. So going into this year, I was a little nervous to see what 4th grade would be like after last year's issues. Well, let me tell you how it's going. Nico arrived home after the first day of school, and I could see his light shining again and his confidence back. Nico told me how excited he was for school this year, all of the friends that were in his trio, and how he really liked his teacher, Mrs. Parrish. I asked Nico why he liked her and what stood out about her. He responded, "Mom, I can just tell she has a bright light, funny, and she's super positive. She seems kind of strict, but in a good way. I think I can learn a lot from her." Wow. I was taken back by that response from a 9-year-old who doesn't really think school's that fun. Anyways, as the year went on, Nico came home on a regular basis to tell me how awesome Mrs. Parrish is. He would say things like, "Today we did a class riddle. It was so fun, the whole class was stumped." Or, "Today was a hard day, but Miss Parrish helped us as a class, and we all got through it. I didn't realize my teachers cared about us this much." Mrs. Parrish has been in communication with me regarding Nico when he was out sick, needed extra help, and just to check in. This is more than I could ask for from a teacher with 80+ students, as well as a full-time bus driver for Wylie School District. If you can't tell by now, she's amazing. These teachers spend more time with our children than us as parents some days. It takes more than just opening a book. I can tell you that these students need more teachers like Nellie Parrish. She not only teaches them, but she inspires them, hears them, coaches them, and pours love and light into these children. We should be praising teachers like Mrs. Parrish, not firing them. I hope that you as board members and school administrators really dig deep and investigate the real reason on why Mrs. Parrish is getting fired and what specifically is not in the best interest of the school district, especially during a teacher shortage. Nellie deserves answers, and I pray that she receives them. We really love Wylie ISD, and specifically chose to buy a house in this district because of the values that are portrayed, but I don't know if they're being executed at this time, especially after hearing the Wylie High School band teacher as well. I would hate for this disservice to happen to yet another important part of Wylie ISD. I have a stack of letters here from other parents and students as well, just to show how big of an impact and important she is. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bree Jordan. Did I pronounce that correctly?
You did. Probably one of the first people that has pronounced that correctly. So, good job. My name is Bree Jordan. I'm a Wylie teacher, and I'm also a Wylie parent of 3 little ones. So I'm extra invested in the future of Wylie. When I was seeking the Lord for words to speak tonight, He simply told me to pray and read scripture. So that is what I'm going to do. Dear Heavenly Father, let your Holy Spirit enter this place now as a rushing wind. May your presence be so evident that it is tangible. Father, you tell us in your word that if anyone seeks wisdom, he should ask for it. Excuse me. So, Father, I ask for wisdom tonight. Not only for the speakers, but for the school board. We thank you, Father, for their service and sacrifice. All of their efforts seen and not seen. I ask for fresh lenses tonight, Father, that truth would be seen. I ask for anything that is blocking truth or understanding be removed in Jesus' name, that truth would be heard. I ask for open and tender hearts, God, that hearts would be able to feel the truth and receive discernment. and with that discernment that you, Father, would lead them to wisdom in their decision making. In the book of John, it says, "But no one would say anything publicly for fear of the leaders." God, I pray against the spirit of fear, that you would remove it from this place so that people will be able to speak with humble boldness and stand up for what is right. I pray you would multiply each speaker's time so that their hearts can be genuinely heard. More than anything, Lord, let your heart be heard far louder than anyone's words. In Jesus' name, amen. In closing, my charge to all of you: mere words fall short if they are not backed up by righteous action. And I will leave you with a few verses that the Lord showed to me recently. And they're from Hebrews chapter 10. "So do not throw away your confidence. It will be richly rewarded. You need to persevere so that when you have done the will of God, you will receive what he has promised. For in just a very little while, he who is coming will come and will not delay. But my righteous one will live by faith. And if he shrinks back, I will not be pleased with him. But we are not of those who shrink back and are destroyed, but of those who believe and are saved." Thank you.
Thank you.
This is from,
Would you mind giving it to Desiree, please?
yes, which one is Desiree? That is from someone else that needed y'all to see.
Thank you, ma'am.
Nellie Parrish.
Good evening. My name is Nellie Parrish, and I'm a fourth grade math teacher at Wylie East Intermediate. On Thursday, April 14th, Ricky Bacon informed me that my contract would not be renewed. Before I continued with what the Lord had placed in my heart, I want you to know that I stand here in humility, grace, and respect. I've been teaching for 20 years, 14 here at Wylie, and I have never had any derogatory remark in the 20 years of teaching. I've asked repeatedly why I've been let go. The principal will not answer this for me. And when I went to speak to Joey Light, he said that Ricky stated that I was not a team player. I implored him to talk with all the teachers in my fourth grade hallway to investigate the truth. Joey Light never followed through. Ricky was able to dismiss me due to being on a probationary contract. Further, my private employment status has been discussed with others without my consent. Regarding my probationary contract, I was told that I was not entitled to a board hearing or an appeal. I chose to not resign and risk this going on my record because I feel strongly that teachers need to be protected. I had 2 complaints by the principal that was brought up to me this year. One was over prayer, and I had that email he sent to me. The other complaint was from the same parent about playing Christian music in my class during independent work. I play a variety of music from country, pop rock, classic rock, and Christian, and usually at the request of the kids. When Ricky made me aware of this complaint, I asked Ricky why he played Christian music in the front office and the lunchroom cafeteria. Every day when we moved over to this campus, he responded with, "Well, I had to change it." I took it out, and you have to take it out as well. What has happened to us? We used to stand on our faith. I have heard we have worship Wednesdays at the high school. Our superintendent opens our school year with a prayer to the faculty. We pray at football games. Ricky opened up our staff meeting with a prayer, and it was very evident he was nervous. I thanked him for that prayer, and he expressed to me that I have to be careful because we can offend others and he discussed with me with a prior teacher about a prior teacher that retired because of a threatened lawsuit. If the complaints were not that of religion, then why were other complaints not addressed with me? My release was not due to academics. Last year, as well as this year, I received distinguished according to pre- and post-test results. Why were these the only 2 complaints that were addressed and not all the others? A good leader is someone that wants the best for others. They want their people to grow and become better. They care, build, communicate, trust, edify, and lead by example. A good leader does not seek to control others. If there is an issue and no communication to follow, how can one rectify the situation? We cannot be a feather in the wind, swaying in every direction the wind blows. We need to stand firm in our principles and faith. This is what we used to stand on. We have so many teachers in our school system that are leaving in droves. Many of the teachers in our school district genuinely care and do their best to put students first. They build up their students, edify them, and help build confidence. They support them, but who is supporting the teacher? Our trio teachers, along with other teachers in the district, are speaking into the identities in their hearts. We are teachers that are going to their baptisms, soccer games, concerts, choir concerts, karate belt tests, and basketball and volleyball games. We are the teachers that are pouring into our children, speaking truth and life into them daily, not only to them, but their families as well. Last year, we started a meal train for a family that lost their father due to COVID. They were new to Abilene and had no support. This is what we are called to do, to serve in all capacities. Our students are facing insurmountable mental and emotional issues that likely we have never seen before. With these changes, we also have to change our approach. It's not just about academic standards being met, but giving life and hope to our students. We have been without a counselor for over a month, and we will not have one until next year. We are also lacking in an assistant principal. There is no checks and balances within our leadership. If you don't agree and question something, it is frowned upon. We are asked for our opinions, but no one listens. Who is here to protect teachers from principals that have a personal agenda? I implore you to speak to our teachers and seek for truths. We need a supportive administration that will continually help us to grow in order to help our students. We don't need fear placed upon us. We need strong men and women that will stand for truths, that will stand for our children, that will stand for our teachers. I will never apologize for Christ. I refuse to have fear. He is why I became a teacher, and I stand firm in him. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark Parrish.
She used my time.
You sure?
Yes, sir.
Colton Parrish.
Hi, my name is Colton Parrish. I am a student at Wylie East Junior High. My mom was my teacher last year. I've never had teachers like Miss Jordan, Miss Parrish, and Miss Rose. They work well together. They're team players. They're kind to students. They make us happy, loved, cared for, and positive. They encourage us. They care about our heart just as much as they care about our education. They are strong in Jesus. They are the best teachers I know.
Thank you, Colton, very much. Dina Warren.
Although I know Miss Parrish, I'm not here to speak for her today. She's got a lot of support, and I have to bring something to the board that my daughter, who is a high schooler at Wylie, has brought to me. She's afraid. She's afraid for her and for other girls at that school right now. She's had a friend who was raped in the parking lot of that school, and she's gone to the counselor, and the counselor basically told her that she needed to get over it and that she needed to move on. I am a person, I'm an educator. I teach at ACU. I am working on my doctorate in traumatology, and I know what traumatic experiences do to our young ones. And it pains me to know this. It pains me to know that this is going on. It pains me to know that not just people at Wylie High School, but other schools in the Wylie district know that there have been high school boys who are on sports teams that have engaged in inappropriate sexual activity with girls who have brought this to the attention, and they still get to play without any repercussions. It concerns me when students go on a band trip and 3 of them get drugged and raped on that band trip. What is going on? Why can our children not be taken care of? As a parent, I trust when she goes to school that she is going to be cared for. And I trust that the administration is going to listen to our children and support our children and uphold our children. And when I hear things like this, and I hear my daughter come home and tell me she is afraid if something happens to her, then nobody will stand up for her, then nobody in the school will care that that has happened to her. This is an epidemic in society. 1 out of 3 girls before the age of 18 will be sexually assaulted. This has to stop, and there has to be some things that are taken into consideration and some hard decisions made. And I know that this isn't an easy thing to discuss, but it's something that really is weighing my heart. And so I just ask for you guys to consider and really think about. I want you to think about what trauma-informed care practices are being taken place of, and how people are talking to our children when they have these concerns. Because to tell somebody that they just need to get over it is ridiculous and is inhumane. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. White, I expect that we will do some investigation on this, and you will report to us promptly. Rachel and Abigail Connor, do y'all want to go together? Yeah. Hello.
Hello. I'm Rachel, this is my daughter Abigail. We're here to also speak on Mrs. Parrish. Ms. Parrish is one of her teachers, she's her 4th grade teacher, and when we found out about what was happening, we were very upset, as many parents are. She's a wonderful teacher, and it's shocking that this is happening. I thought, Wylie, we were better than this. We moved here from out of state, and when I was trying to figure out where we were gonna move to Texas, because we had to figure it out, I picked Abilene when I saw how great of a school Wylie was, and how it would be really good for our family. As Christians, we are called to stand up, even when times are hard, even when it's scary. You have to be brave and stand up when things are not right, and this is that moment. Having her leave our school is not only a disservice to the parents, but to all the students. I was looking forward to her being the teacher for, our littler one when she gets older. Abigail, just like a lot of the other students said, she seems kind of strict, but I don't know, we'll see. And then as time went on, she's so funny, she's so, just her confidence built up. She's a strict teacher while setting those boundaries where kids know that they're gonna learn, they're gonna have fun, and they know that that's how it's gonna be, they're safe in that class. It's very sad that this is happening, and it should not be happening. And honestly, it makes me really disappointed in Mr. Bacon. It makes me really question his character and how he's doing things at his school to be doing this. I think we know better, and we shouldn't be doing this. I'm just really asking for you to fully look into this matter. Please don't just let this happen. This is your time to do what's right. We don't want her to leave our school. But Abigail wrote something she would like to say.
My name is Abigail Connor. Miss Parrish is my math teacher. She is so nice and kind. I know that when I walk into her classroom, she is going to do everything she can to help us learn. She makes me feel comfortable and safe. She makes math fun. She does this thing where when we are working on math, she plays detective goose with us. She is funny and silly. She has somehow made me do better in math than I have in previous years. Sometimes she'll do fun pranks, not bad ones,
children.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I have 10 children, two of which are still in Wylie District. I have 5 grandchildren in Wylie District, so this feels very personal to me. I'm going to read something from, I'm gonna read it and then I'll tell you. The loss of Miss Parrish at Wylie East Intermediate is unnecessary to say the least. In the midst of a teacher shortage, her non-renewal is perhaps even borderline careless. To my knowledge, very few new qualified teachers are even available statewide, even fewer with the expertise that she has from her 20 years of experience. It seems questionable not to offer a teacher of her caliber a position of her choice at the high school or elsewhere in Wylie District. I would suggest offering her a job at the administrative office, but it would seem she has not made mistakes worthy of that opportunity. Speaking of mistakes, it does not appear as if Mrs. Parrish has made any. No guidance plan for correction was even put in place. I urge you to consider, as a council, to not only offer her a job, but also an apology for how she has been treated. Although this injustice has been shouldered by Mrs. Parrish with phenomenal grace, I would not expect the same for all of her teaching peers. Many of us are appalled by the recent decisions made in this matter. We are aware that they include personnel all the way up the administrative ladder. Many of us teachers are watching to see how this order of events plays out, because we are wondering what small infraction might we commit that leads to the same result. We will be dismissed so quickly as well, dispute our years of service. You should also know that even more of us are deciding now if we will choose to remain part of a district that we no longer trust to support our teachers and their best interests. This was from a teacher who was afraid to state who they were and didn't want to come forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Angie Hurley. Hello.
I'm just here because in the last couple of months, I've learned a few things, and one of the things I've learned is that there's a communication gap between the board and some of the programs at the school, specifically the band program that I'm involved in. So, it's kind of awkward to throw this in the middle of everybody's serious discussions, but I came because I wanted to tell you about a really cool band thing that's happening. We have 27 kids going to state at the end of this month, right after graduation. That is 4 ensembles and 15 solos. And the way that you go to state is you learn a Division I music, and it has to be memorized. And for some of those kids, that's 7, 8, 9, 10 pages memorized of music. And so for a lot of these kids, because of COVID, we haven't gone the last 2 years in person, so this will be their first time. So we are super proud of them, super excited for them, and I just wanted to let y'all know.
Thank you. Thank you. Bart Borland.
Excuse me, a lot of serious and difficult issues tonight that I didn't know about before I came up here, but hope y'all carefully consider those. But I'm Bart Borland. I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm not a good public speaker. I'm a little bit nervous about being up here, so y'all can bear with me. You know, I've never come and spoken at a Wylie board meeting before, but with all of the negative chatter that's been going on in the community and social media, really more about the athletic departments and everything, I just felt like, God was calling me, that I was compelled to come and just, some way, try to change the narrative about where we're at. Kind of saddens and disappoints me, my hopes that I could encourage, everyone to change the narrative, to be more positive. I've loved Wylie. We've been blessed to raise 3 children that have all been Wylie Bulldogs from kindergarten through high school. I've seen the hearts and passion of the men and women who've educated, coached, and mentored our kids for over 20 years. Watched them work 80 to 100 hours a week, teaching class, coaching many teams, taking care of facilities, driving buses, etc., all for the benefit of our children. And most of the time at the expense of their own families. I've seen administrators work the same amount of time managing budgets to provide unbelievable facilities for academics, athletics, performing arts, and most importantly, to keep our children safe. Mr. Bessett's been huge in that over the years. So, I believe our job as parents is to support our school district and teach our kids to support and respect our teachers, our coaches, and administrators. You know, I encourage that parents, that, you know, if you feel like changes need to be made, let's quit looking for somebody else to blame. Let's be part of the solution. Let's start at home with our own kids and our families. Let's give with our time and our resources. Let's be positive. Let's be servant leaders, just like these educators. We do have a choice in that. Let's change the narrative because our kids are watching what we're doing as parents. You know, Amanda and I, my wife, we've preached to our kids their entire lives. There's only two things you control, and that's your attitude and effort. So I pray that as parents, we'll have positive attitudes and we'll give max effort with our time and our resources, all to support these servant leaders in our school district. Thank you for your time, and thank you for all you do for our kids. Thank you.
All right, Mr. White, that completes our list. Yes, sir. Thank you, everybody. You need to give them to this one. Thank you, everybody, for being here and sharing your thoughts with us very much. I'm assuming everybody's had an opportunity to look at minutes from the previous meeting. So unless there's an objection, I'll approve those as presented. Seeing no objection, Desiree, those are approved as presented. Consent agenda, Mr. White.
Carol's gonna go over the bills for us.
My portion begins on page 7 of your packet. Amazon company of $10,787. That's 90 invoices that range from special ed supplies, paper, to a lot of different instructional supplies for our kids. We find that a lot of times they have the best price available. And even with the supply chain issues we've been having, we still use it a lot. See the gas bill is at the top, $9,739. Destination Imagination, $12,500. Those are fees for the global finals to send those teams. Fire call protection system, that has to do with the intercom and bell system on our new campus at East Intermediate School.
Is this in the original budget, or is this another addition to?
That was part of that list that I had.
So it was outside of what we
That's correct.
paid the contract,
That's correct.
but it was within that list?
Yes.
Okay.
On page 8, new payroll for the month of April, $2.7 million there.
I know you've said this, Mr. White, what percentage is our payroll?
Payroll and benefits are 84% of our.
Okay.
I really didn't have anything listed till page 11, where we got the Wesco fuel cost. 2 separate weeks, $12,000 a week for fuel. A lot of these have to do with our spring travel and meals that are not going over itemized. Abilene radiator air conditioning, $11,890. That's 10 invoices we have for the month.
That Westco fuel wasn't a duplicate, was it?
It was not, those are different weeks. They were almost the same, and there's another one following up for this weekend. For the second one. That's what it's running us during the spring when we've got all of our activities and things that we're going to. Page 12, Education Service Center, that's our contracted services. They year?
Yes, Mr. Hagler, that's right.
For that food service, once again, our cafeteria cost $130,000 to that one.
Is that down?
That is down, I mean, we were up at about 165-ish.
Spring break.
That'd have been, that'd have
Week
been,
out.
yeah.
1 week food, 2 years down. Doesn't seem down.
It is, that's right.
Page 13, SHI Government Solution, those are Chromebooks as well as a fee for Microsoft and Adobe. Those licenses.
Those are what? What kind of books?
Chrome.
How many of those?
Brad, you're here. I mean, he's asking a question about how many of those Chromebooks were on that. Okay.
There's 25 Chromebooks.
And then there was a Adobe fee and Microsoft.
The largest part had to do with Microsoft. That's the largest part of that. Page 14, you'll see another Westico fuel, that's for the first year of that. Supplemental lists is beginning on page 15. That includes our electric bill. And that's, we're running up behind and we're paying for that, so that's $62,000.
Just a question on the attorney fees. Do we have them do something, or is that just?
Oh, that we, always consult with them on, there's several things in, many different areas, whether it's contracts or,
Special education.
yeah, just different issues with Ms. Vaughn.
Just checking. It's not that much.
Our cash balances are listed on page 16 in all of our bank accounts. So at the end of April, there was $14,107,000. And we are in this low point of, we don't collect very much tax dollars, and we don't collect very much state money right now. And that'll pick up again, towards the end of the school year. So page 17 has got the revenue report. I'll bring you more information next month, but if we look at the cafeteria, the 5751 is what parents have paid for lunches and extras. 5921 and 22 had to do with the money received from the federal programs. And so at the end of April, we were at a positive number of 400,000, which will carry us through the summer when we're still paying salary costs during that time. Page 18 has got our expense report. See, the largest part of our expenses goes through education, line 11, instruction for our children. And where we are over in line 35 for
Bill 1525 in the 87th Texas Legislature. So, Mr. Hack.
The 87th Legislature changed the law regarding the Student Health Advisory Council, which we'll refer to as SHAC for the remainder of this presentation, and human sexuality instruction. House Bill 1525 requires that the SHAC make a recommendation to the board regarding curriculum for appropriate grade levels and methods of instruction for human sexuality instruction. Senate Bill 9 requires the SHAC to make a recommendation to determine the content of district's instruction related to the prevention of child abuse, family violence, dating violence, and sex trafficking. The SHAC has put in a lot of time and effort over the last year evaluating and discussing human sexuality curriculum before making a recommendation to you tonight. I feel that our recommendation is in the best interest of our students and it represents the community values that we have here at Wylie. I gave you a list of the members who are on that council. I do need to recognize Max Johnson, who's in attendance. He's one of the 7 members that's on that council. Okay, House Bill 1525 required that the SHAC follow many guidelines and requirements. We met all of the requirements up to this day. For example, we met the committee requirement of a minimum of 5 members, with the majority being parents who are not educators. We actually, on our committee, it's a 7-member committee, and 2 of them are employees, myself and Mrs. Burleson, and then the rest of them are parents who are not employees of the district. Carissa Parrish is the co-chair. I'm the chair. She was our lead nurse last year, is in a position out at Region 14, serves all the nurses in the region, so I thought she'd be great as a co-chair. Things okay. We met the requirement of posting notice of meetings 72 hours in advance. Not only did we post that on the bulletin board in the office, we posted it on the webpage 72 hours in advance. We also posted it on the bulletin boards at all 3 secondary campuses where we teach human sexuality and health class. We met the requirement of having 2 public meetings. We had 4 meetings all year long with the SHAC. 2 of them you're required to have a public forum, and we did that in the February and April meetings. Just to let you know, no parents or no community members came and spoke during that public comment time. Another thing House Bill 1525 required is for the SHAC members to vote, and we voted on the curriculum in the April board meeting, and it was a unanimous vote by the council. And we met the requirements of recording meetings and posting recordings and copy minutes on the webpage. Not only did we do that for the 2 public hearings, we did it for all SHAC meetings. Recorded it, posted it within the timeline, which I think was 10 days. We always got on with that a day or 2, and also posted minutes at the same time. And I thank Jackie for doing the majority of that for us, putting it on the webpage. So we met all the requirements. The SHAC is recommending tonight to the board the Goodhart-Wilcox Human Sexuality Companion Text. This is also the same publisher and textbook that our health textbook committee is going to adopt as well. What we're talking about tonight with the board is the human sexuality companion piece that goes with that health textbook adoption. So why did we come to this selection? Well, Goodhart-Wilcox was the only textbook that made it to the State Board of Education adoption list. And I think that's very important because if you listen to any of those hearings, it was heavily debated and argumentative because I think the State Board of Education panel board is a lot like our United States, is they're split with liberal and conservative views. So it's very argumentative and combative. Well, the State Board of Education declined to add any of the new health teams that propose standards regarding sexual orientation or gender identity. So the textbooks that have those materials in it did not make the adoption list. So we're going with Goodhart-Wilcox as a recommendation, and they do not have any of that content in the textbook. So I'm going to tell you what the content is in the textbook. Our students and our teachers will get a hardback copy for the classroom sets. There's 19 chapters in the copy that's going to be in the classroom, okay, which covers all the health standards. There's been a question, why do schools teach human sexuality? You're not required to teach it unless you offer health as a class. And we offer it as a credit. You can get it in 8th grade or in high school, you get a credit for health. If you offer health, you have to teach the TEKS. And the health TEKS consist of human sexuality. So that's why Wylie will have to teach the TEKS, which include that. But let me make it very clear, and I'll repeat this later in this presentation. No student at Wylie ISD will be taught human sexuality unless they have the consent of their parent. Tasley's providing us with a template. A student or a parent will get notification 14 days in advance next year of that we're going to be teaching human sexuality, and the parent has to give consent by checking the box saying that they opt in, not opt out, that they're actually going to leave their classroom, go to another location to be taught human sexuality. There's all kinds of safeguards with this, so I want to alleviate any of those type of concerns. So the textbook in the classroom has the 19 chapters of the health standards. The last 4 chapters are omitted, and that's the human sexuality companion piece that I'm going to ask for y'all to approve tonight. That companion piece, we haven't decided if we're going to purchase that hardback or digitally. I think digital would work because we're probably going to provide this instruction in pack on a video board, but we may want to purchase hardbacks because the House bill also requires that you provide access to parents to preview the materials. We don't have the materials now. Everything we've had has been digital. Like Max got a link to look at it digitally. During our chat meeting, we looked at it on the board and stuff. If I purchase those, I'll place one in central office. I'll place one in each of the 3 secondary campuses so a parent can come in and review what the content we are going to teach. I can't give that to them because it's copyright. They can obviously purchase it if they want to. So the content that's going to be in that human companion piece are what you would think you would see in human sexuality. Male reproductive system, female reproductive system, conception, pregnancy, birth, adolescence and puberty, teen pregnancy, and parenthood. That's chapter 20. Chapter 21 deals with the relationships and sexual abstinence, which, by the way, House Bill 1525 requires that you emphasize abstinence, which is not new. That was required with the previous LT as well. But that is what you emphasize. Chapter 22 is violence prevention and response, child abuse, family and dating violence, and human sex trafficking. A new law went into effect in January. Governor Abbott signed Senate Bill 9 that requires the same thing we're talking about for human sexuality. You have to have a parent opt-in consent to be taught about human sex trafficking, family and dating violence, and child abuse as well. That's what's great about this companion piece because it's all encompassed in there. It's in the chapter with human sexuality chapter, so it's all together. And then the last chapter of content in this companion piece, sexually transmitted infections and HIV, AIDS, common STIs, preventing and treating STIs. So that's the content that will be taught. But once again, no student while at ISD will be taught human sexuality without consent of parents. Tonight, the SHAC recommends this, once again, because we feel comfortable with the material that's in there. We recommend it, which is on the adoption list, which means it will cover the teach 100%. We feel good after the evaluation. We feel good about recommending it to y'all, and we'll approve it tonight. Textbooks will be purchased with a separate companion piece that I've already talked about. I want to re-emphasize students in the health class will never see the content about human sexuality. They will have to access digital or hard copy. Copies of the companion piece will be located in the 3 locations that I've already talked about. Written notice will be given to the parent 14 days in advance before we teach human sexuality. They're very clear about that, and I'm glad Tasby came out with that template. We just put the name of our school in and information regarding our campus. I think it's important that you know that as a parent, I know that you'll get a mailer from the school with check boxes, and you're checking and consenting a dozen things. They want to make it clear that this was a standalone, that there's no confusion whatsoever. And the same thing will be with Senate Bill 9, human sex trafficking, etc. And then the thing that we have not done yet, if y'all approve this now, we will meet with the health teachers. See, by the way, the health teachers were at the last April meeting and heard all this about the companion piece and decided to adopt the textbook. We'll get together with administration, some science teachers. We'll determine how we're going to teach this. Obviously, we have the content. My thought is, just brainstorm within that day, is probably remove those kids out of that classroom, take them to the pack, separate them male and female, and teach that subject condensed in a 1-day period or several hour period. The question I'll ask that group is, do we want to have 8th graders with a high school? Probably will not. So it'll probably be 2 different lessons, males separate by age, and then females separated by age. I know that was a lot, so fire off with your questions. We've been working on this since the beginning of the year, other than Senate Bill 9, which came out in January.
So can the requirements be met in like a day session? I mean, is that what you're saying? I mean,
I do think it's gonna be condensed if the health teachers, and I say science teachers, we had some biology and science teachers volunteer to help with this. If they feel the need for longer, we can do it. We have not made the decisions on how we're going to do the instruction, provide instruction. We just met all the requirements up to that date. But we'll have to decide for our teachers what they can and cannot talk. They have to stay within the curriculum, the safe curriculum. Did I answer your question?
yes, yeah, cause I was just wondering, embedded within this, if that was even.
We have had time to have those meetings and discuss that. Health is a half-year class, it's half credit, I mean, it's half credit. So, we'll have time, this could be later in the first semester before we ever get the instruction.
Just want to say thanks for working hard on this, because this is a touchy subject. I've had some questions about this. Thanks for getting this council together to approve this, and I know you've been working hard on it. And thank you that it's a standalone piece of paper that's gonna be coming, not just mixed with.
We don't get credit for that.
Well, thank you to everybody involved, because, so parents won't miss it. So it's one of those, cause it is prior to parent approval, and they can come up and make a
I do want to say we've worked really hard to alleviate concern about the health controversy.
I think you've done a great job.
So this takes board.
Did you say Max was here?
Yes, Max.
I'm here.
All of it.
He's in the back corner.
Come out of the corner, Max.
I'm around the corner.
Max, anything you wanna add?
No, I think he covered it, greatly. We did have great debates and great, discussions in each of the meetings, and,
The committee had access to the curriculum for about 2 months. We thought we were gonna split off because we kept waiting for hard copy. We found out we're not getting a hard copy. Get this on when they give to us. So we went over it at the February board meeting, and they had it to review for 2 months.
there were definitely good discussions that were made on both sides, and, we're making the right decision in recommending to you.
Thank you.
I would also affirm what Mike said. Mr. Hagler has painstakingly worked on this. He has been working on it since the first of the year.
You go ahead and say it.
And he's got 2 daughters in junior high, and it's an important topic. So, he has not, been flipping on how he's approached this thing. It's been very serious, and he's worked hard with his committee, so.
It was a team effort.
No doubt.
But it does take board approval.
Anybody else have any questions?
I make a motion that we adopt the Goodhart-Wilcox Human Sexuality companion text to accompany the Texas Health Western High School. This companion text consists of course materials required by Senate Bill 9, TEC 28.04.
A second.
She beat him to the punch.
Quick.
Any other questions or comments, discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Hagler, very much.
Thank you, sir.
He's next up. He's next up.
I'll make this one.
You don't get paid by how long you stand here.
I'll do this one.
Are you ready?
Yeah,
Okay.
District Innovation Plan.
So Mr. Hagler, has also been working on this. We knew this renewal of our district innovation plan was coming up, and, we put that out, Mr. Hagler, well in advance.
After numerous reminders.
Yeah.
We got time.
Yeah, I was a little nervous about making sure we didn't let this thing fall through the cracks, but, Mr. Hagler, I'll let you go ahead and address that.
District of Innovation, House Bill 1842 was passed during the 84th Texas legislative session in spring of 2015. It provides Texas public school districts the opportunity to be designated as districts of innovation. To access these flexibilities, the school district must adopt an innovation plan. I realize there's several members on the board here that were not here when we adopted this first plan 5 years ago. So my goal tonight is to review the existing plan, the current plan that we're under right now, and to ask for y'all to approve our renewal plan, which only has one change to that. When you ask why would you want it to be a district of innovation, it gives us greater local control of decision makers over the educational instructional model for students. It increases freedom and flexibility with accountability relative to state mandates and government educational programming, and it gives empowerment to innovate and think differently. If you notice there in the middle of that sheet, you see we have 4 areas of innovation on our plan. School districts can come up with any plan they like. This is what we did 4 years ago. But instead of going over those format, let's turn the page and we'll go individually on each one of those areas of innovation. I do want to say districts are not exempt from statutes including curriculum and graduation requirements and academic and financial accountability. We can't make any changes to those. So on page 22, the first area of innovation that we have on our plan is school start and end date. Texas Education Code states that the school district may not begin student instruction before the 4th Monday in August. As you notice, we've started before that date passed because we're a district of innovation. We can be exempt from that. The current process allows no flexibility in the design of annual calendars to fit the needs of the community or the wishes of a local board of trustees. Previously, what would happen is school districts would ask for a waiver and it would be granted. But then it got political. The tourism industry got into it and said it was hurting their funds. The legislature changed the law so you could no longer get those waivers. But then districts of innovation came about, so we now can control that. For the last 5 years, we've been able to develop a calendar that addresses student instruction and focuses on professional development. For the last 5 years, we've been allowed to just create our own district calendar that aligns with local universities and other local school districts, which is very important because we have a lot of students whose parents work for ISD or for local universities, so you want to tie that all together. That's been very popular. So that's one of the areas of innovation that we've been doing. The second area of innovation, kindergarten through 4th grade class size reporting requirement. Texas Education Code requires districts to maintain a class size of 22 students or less for kindergarten through 4th grade classes. What was happening was school districts would just ask for a waiver because you always try to start the school year out 22 to 1 because of fluctuation moving in and out, having to transfer students from classes for different reasons. Occasionally you'll get over the 22 to 1. You would apply for a waiver, it was granted, no questions asked. It was just a bureaucratic process. You're also required to notify the parents when this took place before the waiver would even be approved. Those students had already changed the group back to 22 to 1. So we got past the bureaucratic process, and what we can do now because we're a district of innovation is that we don't have to meet the 22 to 1. We don't hear me say that we don't try. We attempt to meet the 22 to 1 K through 4 if at all possible. And we always begin the school year with those numbers. We get the adequate staff to start the year off to do that. But during those changes, sometimes, I don't know, when I was at intermediate principal, it seemed like we'd always have one class that always get over by 1 or so. But we still do notify the parents of those students that class has exceeded the requirement to do that. The third thing that we do under our area of innovation right now is teacher certification. Texas Education Code states the person may not be employed in a school district unless that person holds the appropriate certification. In the event a district cannot locate a certified teacher for a position, the district must request emergency certification from TEA. This system is burdensome and does not take into account the unique financial and/or instructional needs of the district. Also, the Texas Education Code requires that the district provide written notice to students, parents, if an inappropriate certified or uncertified teacher is assigned to a classroom for more than 20 consecutive days. Now, this was very important when we did the district renovation 5 years ago. It really hits on now with the difficulty of hiring staff. So, since we're under this plan, we can continue to maintain our current expectations. That hasn't changed. We want every teacher to be certified. But if we cannot make that work, the district will make every attempt to hire individuals with appropriate certification. When that's not reasonably possible, the district will have the flexibility to hire individuals who are knowledgeable in the area and equipped. Now remember, this is grades 5 to 12. We don't do this at the lower grades. You know, you have those highly specialized reading teachers, right? But 5 through 12, there are times that we have to do this. But remember, the person is a certified teacher. They're just teaching one course outside of their certification. And we have teachers doing that on all 3 of the secondary campuses. It's minimal, but we do have some. CTE is a different animal. You can hire a CTE if you see D on page 24. An individual with experience in the content of an elective CTE course could be eligible to teach a vocational skill or elective course to a local teaching certificate. You have somebody that has expertise in a field, they don't have to have a teaching certification, they can prove that they're expert. We give them a local certification and they can teach. Realize this case and the previous case, we don't want to set those teachers up for failure. We give them a mentor, they're praised probably more often than the others, and getting feedback from the principals, because we want these people to be successful in this situation. And then the last one, the final area of innovation is under our current plan is probationary contracts. We do want to make a change to this. It says, Texas Education Code says experienced teachers new to the district, their probationary period may not exceed 1 year if the person has been employed as a teacher in public education for at least 5 of the previous 8 years. A 1-year probationary period is not sufficient to evaluate the teacher's effectiveness in the classroom. So what we are asking on our innovative strategy is to extend that up to 3 years. Under the current plan, remember that's the Texas Education Code. Under the current plan, we have it at 2 years. We're asking to extend that to 3 years for probationary contract. You see that's at the bottom of page 24. You also see that all other, now these are teachers that have moved to you from another district in education 5 of the last 8 previous years. It also says all other teachers hired in the district may remain on probationary status for 3 years and may be issued a 4th-year probation in accordance with PEC 21.02. So with all that being said, we are asking for y'all to approve the district innovation. We had to go through a lot of requirements for that as well. We ran this by the district advisory committee, and it was a unanimous vote by them. We did that. It was over 30 days ago, because after that, we had to put the proposed plan on our webpage. It's going to be on for about 40 days. And then I had to email the commissioner to let him know our intentions of changing our plan, or renewing our plan. We've done all that. If we get approval from you guys tonight, I then have to put the new plan on our webpage, which is based for the entirety of the next 5 years. And I have to, once again, send to the commissioner the new approved plan for him to okay that. Do understand this, anytime during that 5 years, because of changes, you can always make amendments to the district innovation plan for the final approval. That's the only change we're doing right now. I know I threw a lot at you, any questions?
I got a question on the class size. It
Yes.
says if it varies, you have to report to the board of trustees. Is there a time frame in that? How long did you have to report?
Well,
We have to alleviate
no, I don't
or
think
fix
we put a
that?
time frame in the,
I just never seen that.
yeah, now, I don't know that if any principals have had, over 22 to 1 this year.
Right.
I don't,
I have.
you have.
We had to add one to our GT where we went from 22 to 23, but it was just for the last 2 months.
I just didn't know if there's a time frame. that you
I
had.
don't, I know with the waiver process, it was within, like October 1st was the first part of the year, and, I believe it was within a month. We hadn't had to do it in a while because we've been under the District of Innovation plan.
I can find that out.
So do you, okay, so do you have, well, I guess really what I was asking is with this, the way this reads is anytime you're over the 22 to 1 and then the 24 to 1, you have to report to the board, right? That's how that reads. But with the district innovation, is that not the case, or is that the case?
With the district innovation, you have to, parents have to be notified.
This says the board.
Where are you reading that other?
Number A,
Education code or?
letter A, it says, yeah, in the event that any class size exceeds the ratio during the school year, the superintendent reports this information to the board of trustees.
Send it before letters?
Yeah, I was just curious, I didn't know if there's a reporting time frame or not.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
I don't think we had that in the policy.
Okay.
Is that how we would do it, the board letter, Mr. Lang?
I just read that, so.
That hasn't happened very much.
It really hasn't. I mean, even like Mr.
I said,
Hager
the
was
10 years
saying.
I was at intermediate school, maybe one class per year, but it would be for a short period of time.
And you-
And now, or once you have a class that's dropped well below, you start moving those kids over to you and up. So you can fix it pretty quick. That's not a real popular decision, but you can do it.
You know, are we, dumb question, but are we like concerned about those numbers, you know, being at that level, or are we, is it with our growth?
22 is what the state mandates and recommends. And like I said, I don't know any that we've gone over 23.
So let me say, that's a big part of what we do and have been doing for, since the spring started, and we'll sit down, and principals get tired of hearing me talk about personnel probably, but we look real hard at numbers. We try to project about a 4% growth, and what would that do to your numbers, if we did have it? This year, we're right at 4% right now, district-wide. That's not necessarily grade level by grade level, but that's the district-wide growth. And, so as we look at those numbers, we try to put ourselves in a position where we're gonna be, better than 22-1. We also have strategies in place if we get a large influx at a grade level. Our desire is that we don't ever, just bring somebody in new and not have an opportunity for that class of students to get to know them. So, for example, Mr. Hagler's talking about a class that goes to 23. At that point, we're gonna be looking real hard at our aides and our teachers available, and we will start looking at the possibility of almost team teaching, where they come in and you have another teacher in that classroom, and then as the year progresses, you might split that class some, and teach a lesson here, math lesson, and a English lesson, and then continue to do that, and where everybody gets to know each other.
But do aides count in this ratio?
Not
Right?
aides,
No.
no.
It has to be a teacher.
That's correct, that's correct.
Let me give you the worst case scenario happening in intermediate school. As Mr. Ladd said, you plan in the future, you know your numbers, you look at the previous grades numbers, you go 3 to 5% of whatever you think it's gonna be that year, so you try to pad that. I had an experience one year, I had classes that started out there with 23 in a couple, but I had one class, this was unusual, had 8 kids not show up that year. Now, you make phone calls after meet the teacher, you're not sure, 8. So it took us about a week to weed all that, so then I had to call and we had to move all those overages to that one class. That's what I'm saying, it's not a real popular decision, but it's a decision you have to make, and then you can move students around to equal it out to 22-1. It takes you a couple of weeks to get there. Now, if you go past a couple of weeks and you've got 3, 4, 5 classes with 23 or 24, that's when you have to hire a teacher. And then you have your numbers down to 21 ratio. It all works out. I think maybe a couple of times, during my tenure where I had to deal with the 22-1 ratio, the parents were given a letter and we finished the year with a 23 in the class, but never more than that. And the parents, nobody complained and the teacher was fine with it. But when you get several classes, then that's when you have to have a teacher at the section. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, sir, thank you.
I'll try to find out the timeline, or maybe we need to put a timeline in.
I don't know, I was just curious. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Hager. Anything from the district advisory committee? Who all's on that?
We've got 20, how many, Desiree? Probably 20, in the 20s there, we have community members, we have parents, teachers, aides on that committee.
Every campus has members.
I would say this year there was not anything, but when we did this originally, as a matter of fact, I can remember, we had the same policy, but we didn't have in the policy that a letter would go to the parents if we exceeded the 22 to 1. And one of the parents asked that we put a notification letter in that, to that parent, and so we adjusted that. But this year, there was not any feedback that was to alter what he brought to the committee.
And there's several members on that committee for the lower grades, they didn't say.
Yeah.
Well, I'll make the motion that we, renew the District of Innovation Plan for the 22-23 through 26-27 school year, as presented. Second.
On it.
Did you get that, Desiree?
And you gotta be fast, man.
Mhm.
Fast.
Any other discussion or questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Unanimous, Desiree. We've got a government capital contract and resolution for our LED lighting, Mr. Wylie.
Yes, sir. At our last board meeting, we approved a project with MHSC to replace all of our lights with LED lighting. The projected savings per year is of $235,000 per year, district-wide. Now, I say district-wide, that's actually the west side campuses, because the east side already have LED lights. With that, we did not actually make a motion about the finance, and that, obviously, that, I apologize for that. We made the motion for the project, but not the financing. In your package, you see the contract, all this was sent to our attorney, and they have approved all of the contract, the wording in the contract, the description of the property, and then Exhibit B actually shows the payments. And again, it's $147,447.12 a year, and that yearly savings against $235,000. You see a certificate that actually shows our tax rate and our debt service and so forth, and their figures to see if we can pay back our obligation. That's what is on page 33. And then page 34 is the resolution that basically says we are entering into this finance contract with GCC. And again, we passed this by our attorney, Eric Munoz, with Eichelbaum Wardell. So I propose that we finance, my proposal is to finance the project. And right now, we're at 3.28%. I will say this, and I shared with y'all right after, as soon as I found out that we had to go through this process, that's, the rates almost, well, actually prior to our last board meeting, just were shooting up. And I don't, Brad, you probably remember better than I do. I don't know if is it 50 basis points? Is that how they talk about that?
It's the last Fed fund adjustment, so yeah.
So
And
that-
that's will last.
And we're locked in right now until the 17th of May, so anything if we postpone it, I think they're gonna continue to go up. There've been a lot of conversations with the Fed with what they're gonna do with interest rates, and I don't know that anybody knows, but that's where we are right now.
It went up from the last time we were quoted, like,
It
less
was-
than a month.
That's right, which is a lot.
Yes.
On the financials. Basically, what he said is, you really right now are in, the market is not in a position where they can guarantee more than about 2 weeks out of a rate. So.
What's your pleasure, board?
I'm sorry.
I said, what's your pleasure, board, to quote Ray Templeton?
Oh, yeah, that was his statement.
I'll make a motion, we approve financing with Government Capital Corporation with an interest rate of 3.28%.
A second.
Good, Desiree? No other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Mr. White?
Thank y'all.
Let's hear
We're
what
just gonna work on it soon. He's ready to order everything and start shipping it. We've already got a location to store it, so.
And is there a chance of it being ready in the fall?
No.
Well, you know, he was
Oh,
very
yeah, you
cautious
missed that.
about that.
He wouldn't give us the date.
He didn't answer that question.
Okay.
He was
Okay.
hedging his
Okay,
bets.
I got you. I got you. All right.
But we will, I think what'll happen is we'll, you know, work campus by campus, and I think a lot of the campuses will be there. So,
Good. Well, who's up? Mr. Goodenough, Mr. Amadette, or Mr. Smith?
Mr. Amadette's about to
I'll
take
go.
off.
Alright. So you have my principal report there for Wylie West Junior High. I'm not gonna go over all those numbers and stuff, they're up there for you to already look at and see. What I'm gonna focus on tonight is, our students. Jumping down to academics, our North Texas Regional Braille Challenge. Novi Lewis won first place in the junior varsity division. She's an amazing student, and we hate to lose her, but she'll be going to high school next year, but she's doing awesome things within the Braille. She's a completely blind student, but she's just amazing to watch her go throughout the school. She gets place to place on her own and everything, so good people, or good person there, and good person moving on to the high school. You've probably also seen her, I've sent out, if you possibly have seen some of the multimedia announcements that we've done, she's actually been on some of the announcements as well. Lead, well, I'm gonna skip lead. Let's go down to extracurricular. TMSCA, 5th place sweepstakes at state meet. Swimming finished off their first season as a junior high sport for Wylie, and at Wylie West Junior High, and also at Wylie East. Multiple students received a lot of great experience, and just building on the future for high school. So I think that was a really good program that we brought down to the high school for our junior high students. Spring tennis finished up their spring season. We just had 29 students place in our last tournament, so it was very successful for our tennis. And Coach Bristow does a great job there. Soccer, we're 2-1 currently, and we have 2 games remaining. UIL choir, 7 people earned an excellent rating on their solo. 26 people earned a superior rating on their solo. UIL band received unanimous superior ratings, that's 1s, in the UIL contest. Our yearbook has actually been nominated to represent by a representative from Balfour about our showcasing our theme. It's kind of a Netflix theme, so they've been nominated for that. And then also they're currently working on inspirational rocks, and they're giving out rocks to our staff members. So they're getting things there. My rock said, "I'm the rock." So. And the rock of Wylie West Junior High. All right, and then I'm gonna jump back to lead. I've talked to y'all a lot about lead class, multimedia class, a couple classes we brought along when I started being the principal of Wylie West Junior High. I've been some great things. Mr. Keenum, I know that you're really big on PALS at the high school.
Thanks, Mr. Evident.
And so we created lead at the junior high level to help with that. What they currently have been doing is planting flowers with the FA students. We have flower boxes out front of junior high. Been one of those that did that on Earth Day with their FA students. They're working on an end-of-year project. They're actually creating a picture book that highlights leadership qualities. They'll be going to the West Elementary, wherever she was here. Oh, she's handing out pineapple. They're going to go to the West Elementary and talk to students down there about leadership qualities. They're making appreciation cards for we just had a lunch lady superhero day on Friday. And our Kindness Club is actually also going to feed our, I fed the entire staff for teacher appreciation on Friday, so we're going to push off the lunch lady thing next week and feed them again. So doing that. They're continuing to paint building 2. It's an older building, so we're working on trying to beautify the walls a little bit, and we're gonna give each, like student council, band, different groups are gonna have their own wall. We kinda have guidelines and stipulations, but they're gonna have their own wall to create about their organization. I think it's gonna be a good thing as well. And then, skipping down, this is not on there, but I'll talk to you a little bit about LEAD and multimedia. We had 67 total applicants that want to be in LEAD next year. That was 53 that were just LEAD applicants, and I think 19 or 14, something like, my math is messed up there, I think, but we allowed them to apply for LEAD and multimedia, or both, and so we had a few that applied for both, but we had a total of 67 for LEAD and a total of 19 for multimedia, and again, a few of those overlap. But those have been some great programs that we've started and created at our campuses. Talked a little bit about LEAD. Ms. Riston actually asked some of the teachers, got to get feedback, because this is the second year that our LEAD students have gone into the 5th grade class. Most of the 5th grade classes have gone into some 6th grade classes, and they help with different things, and this is some of the teacher feedback. I've loved having Cammie in my classroom. This is from Ms. Nelson. She was the best teacher and helper. She even planned lessons that went along with what I was teaching. She did an excellent job in showing the students perspective to our students. The students enjoyed her coming and looking forward to her coming into class each time that she was there. Ms. Cothran talks about, actually one of the students, she does our dyslexia, and one of the students that went into her class, one of the lead students, is actually, she taught in 1st grade, so she was blessed to have him again. Says, I will say, my students that go to, or actually, I'm sorry, dyslexia, best program ever. My dyslexic kiddos love when the lead students come in. Another teacher writes about that, saying my students that go to Dyslexia and Read 180 love the lead students. They are so excited to have reading buddies with them. So a lot of great things that Ms. Riston's created with our lead program. With that said, Mr. Keenum, we've had so many applicants that we're looking actually to expand into 2 lead classes instead of 1 this coming year. And we're going through all the application process right now looking at that, but it's been a really good program.
And how does that translate into PALS?
We're creating leaders to move into PALS, hopefully move into PALS.
I know I was asking the wrong guy, the wrong lady that question.
But we're creating leaders.
We have 2 now.
2 what?
We have 2
PALS?
PALS classes now.
Oh, 2 classes? I love it. And plans for the 3rd?
We'll work towards the 3rd. It's in our growth plan.
Any questions from you?
Everybody needs a PALS.
Thank you, Mr. Adrian. Appreciate you.
Good job. Have a good year.
All right, guys, how are y'all doing tonight? Good. A couple things, STAR testing is happening. We started last week. Last Thursday and Friday, we had 8th grade science, we had 8th grade social studies. Tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday. On Tuesday and Wednesday, the entire building will be STAR testing, grades 5 through 8. Tomorrow it's math, Wednesday it's reading, and then Thursday 5th grade science will wrap it up, and on Friday will be makeup days, and hopefully all the hay will be in the barn, and we will move forward from STAR testing. We will have some end of year exams, not semester exams, but they're just kind of 6 weeks exams the last week of the school year, and also we'll be having a lot of projects going on that week, so things to keep the kids engaged and involved all the way to the end. Our Acts of Kindness Club, I've talked to you guys about this probably every time I've been in front of you this year. We did go over the 500 recognitions, which I kind of talked to you all about last time. We had high hopes. It was like, man, what if 500 kids? And it happened, Miss Christian, that was kind of her baby at the beginning of the year, and it's grown into something that's been pretty incredible. Our musical happened in April. Beauty and the Beast was performed at the Performing Arts Center. Hey, one really great thing that night that I was there, that I thought there were some kids on the stage that you just would never imagine had that in them. Like when you see them in the hallways and you see them in the classrooms, you just can't imagine that they can do what they did on that stage. And it was pretty incredible to watch that happen. Our choir just got back from a trip from Six Flags, and they had a really fun time on that Saturday, and it was really fun, and the choir director could not wait to get back to tell me of all the compliments that she received about how well behaved our kids are. And you know, as a principal, that makes me really proud. Our band concert was last week. I believe it was on Tuesday night. Again, just watching the kids perform, just super proud moment as a principal of Wylie Junior High. I don't know if any of you were there, but it was a pretty incredible night. One thing that I thought was very telling, our band director, Miss Leeds, she is fabulous. And when she walked out for the beginning band, she got like this rousing round of applause from the parents, and I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. They recognized the band director, and she's the great job she does. Well, the beginning band played, and I'm telling you, they're for real. Those 6th graders, they were squawking on those trombones at the beginning of the year, but they were awesome the other night. They were great. I mean, they're the real deal. They're about to be great next year in the big band. Pretty unbelievable. And then cleared the stage, got all the 6th graders off. 7th and 8th graders got up there, they were ready to go. Miss Leeds came out again to another like rousing round of applause. It was pretty incredible that I think the parents just recognized how awesome she is for our kids. And then the 7th and 8th graders, they knocked it out. It was a night to honor heroes. They played this just beautiful song that's kind of an ode to the USS Arizona that sits in Hawaii. It was just a beautiful song. She read some letters that the kids had written to their heroes, most of them to their parents. It was pretty touching. And then they closed the show with the theme to the Avengers, which it was just a great night. It was a great night to honor our band that night. Our soccer season concludes on Friday. It's the big match against the West. Our boys are 2-2. Our girls are 4-0. And I'm hearing the girls' battle is going to be pretty awesome. We feel like there are 2 groups of great 8th grade soccer girls teams that are going to battle it out, and then the next 4 years are about to be great together at high school. So we're super excited about that happening on Friday. A little bit about our lead class. Ms. Spencer, just a phenomenal job with these students. She also teaches what we used to call BUILD. It's an interpersonal skills class, but she is just great with the students. She's having some community leaders come out and speak these last few weeks of school. Mr. Light kicked that off last week and did a great job with our students. Showed that he still got it. He lasted 45 minutes. And it was pretty awesome. But the kids
they lasted.
Well, the kids thought it was great to have the superintendent teaching their class that day. So it was a big day for them. On April the 28th, we had the first annual Wylie East Junior High Art Walk. Our art teacher has been working all year long planning for this, and she had it prepared, and the hallways were lined with artwork, and her room had sculptures everywhere. And about 15 minutes before it started, she was not panicky, but she was a little apprehensive and had some anxiety about, I don't know how this is going to go. Are people going to come to the art show? And within about 15 minutes of it starting, the hall was packed. Probably about 200 people showed up. And it, again, just such a great night to be at Wylie East Junior High. On Friday, we have some investigative math students that are going with Mrs. Grimland. They're going to go to the USG sheetrock plant, and they're going to hang out with some engineers over there for about half a day, and they're going to see how things work kind of behind the scenes. They're going to get to wear the hard hats, and they're going to get to tour it, and they're going to get to talk to engineers and see how they make the sheetrock, how they run the machinery, and those kids are super excited. Our 5th graders are going to have some picnics on May 16th and 17th. That's just the 5th grade. We'll have some awards assemblies the week of the 16th. 8th grade fun day is May 20th. And then we'll have some big 3. We've had a big 3-on-3 tournament going on. Mr. Eames has been running that. We've had brackets, 7th grade boys, 7th grade girls, 8th grade girls, 8th grade boys. And it's going to all come together on May the 20th. We'll have our 3-on-3 finals. So here's the thing. This is the end of 9 years for me being a junior high principal. 6 at the one and only, now 3 at the East. So I figure I've stood up here probably about 40 times, 40 plus, give or take. And I've tried to entertain you guys with some things I've said. I think that my speeches kind of got us on the 3-minute time limit, which I know I've already gone over. But I think that was my fault because of some things I do when I stand up here. And but I've got a couple more things to say. Hey, I say all the time that the best thing about Wylie ISD are our students. I say it so much that Mr. Light quotes me. I've heard him say, well, you know, like Mr. Eno says. Hey, and I firmly believe that. The best thing about Wylie ISD are our students. But tonight, I want to brag a little bit about our teachers and about our administrators. Just for a minute, indulge me. Hey, what we do, the jobs we do every day, teachers and administrators, it's harder than it's ever been. It's just flat out harder than it's ever been. But I will tell you that I think we're better than we've ever been. I think the teachers and administrators are better than we've ever been. The teachers are better and they're more prepared. Hey, when I became a teacher in 1993, I taught for 7 years at Wylie High School. I never one time had a curriculum content meeting with my fellow English teachers. Never. We just didn't do it back then. I mean, we had the textbook out, taught out of the textbook, hope the kids got it. Hey, now those teachers, hey, they're planning hardcore every day. They're curriculum experts. Hey, I was not a curriculum expert. Hey, I knew how to love kids, and I was pretty good at teaching what I taught. I was even teacher of the year 1 year. Hey, what I did though holds no comparison to what our teachers do now. Hey, they're better than they've ever been. They have high expectations for the students. They teach the standards, and all the while they love our kids. They love them, y'all. Our teachers love the kids. Hey, and that staff that I have right now, it's the best staff I've ever had. I've told y'all that before, but I believe it. It's the best staff ever. Hey, and these administrators that are in this room, hey, back in the early 2000s, I became an administrator in the spring of 2000. I've been doing this 22 years as an administrator. Hey, back then, about 80% of what we did, it was just about handing out textbooks. It was about swatting some kids when they were bad, and it was about putting them on a bus. That's about 80% of what we did. That's what it was. Hey, now about 5% of what we do is that. You know what? Now we're instructional leaders, like for real instructional leaders. Hey, we're special ed experts. Many of us in this room, that's what we've had to become. We're de-escalators. We're conflict managers. Hey, we're student advocates. That's what we do. And all the while, we love the kids like they're our very own. That's what we do. We love them like they're their own. So tonight, I just want to say kudos to my fellow principals, the two Lisas, Kim McMillan, Karen Christian's about to join the ranks. Mr. Boone, I know he's here somewhere. He's back there. Mr. Bacon, hey, Double A, my junior high partner. Mr. Smith, congratulations on your retirement. And Reagan Berry, welcome to the team. Hey, I know sometimes when y'all are together and when we think about things, we get nostalgic and we wish for the good old days. You know, we sort of do that. Hey, I'm here to say I think we're better now than we've ever been. And I think the best is yet to come. So thank you. Speaking of the best is yet to come, here he is.
Mr. Smith, you're not Miss Leeds, okay? Miss Leeds got that.
Hello, everybody. Hello. Start off with our enrollment numbers at the high school. Currently in grade 9, we have 403, grade 10, 348, grade 11, 324, and seniors, 266. So, you know, we're graduating the senior class around 266 and bringing up 423 or something like that. Big class. Yeah, so it's going to be a big shift. So our total is 1,341 students currently. This is May. Graduation, 7 o'clock, May 27th at the Taylor County Expo Center. Our baccalaureate is at 2 o'clock, May 22nd at Beltway South. Our speaker will be Chris McCurley. I think most of y'all are probably familiar with him. But, and our class valedictorian for the class of 2022 is Tommy Thomas, and salutatorian is Nathan Collins. Two, if you don't know these young men, not only are they highly intelligent, they're gifted in a lot of ways. They're just fine young men. Very proud to have been with them for the last 4 years. The high school academic award ceremony will be held tomorrow in the PAC. We'll start with grade 9 at 5:30, and then grade 10 at 6:15, grade 11 at 7 o'clock, and at 7:45 to finish off with the seniors. Our UIL academic team had a great season this year. They finished second in the regional meet in Lubbock. There was over 32 teams there. That's how many were teams represented. We finished second overall. The state meet for speech and debate will be held on May 23rd and 24th. All other events were held this last weekend. So I'm gonna go over some regional and state results with you right quick. Regional results in calculator, Aiden Gertizer was first, Vincent Mercado was third, and Dylan Mucatera was fourth. These three, along with Honor Galapati, were the first place team and qualified for state. And at the state meet, Aiden Gertizer was second individual, and the team placed second overall. In computer science, Nathan Vincent was alternate to state with a fourth place finish in region. Current issues, Jacob Riston, Daniel Duke, Mia Dole, Brendan Hurt were the second place team and alternate to state. Literary criticism, Alyssa Ranstead was third place in region. Fourth was Grace Rhodes. These two, along with Gracie Hurst and Dara Figueroa, had a first place finish as a team and qualified for state. And at the state meet, Alyssa Ranstead was sixth individual, and Dara Figueroa was fourth individual. In math, second was Aiden Gertizer and qualified for state, and he finished fourth at the state meet. In news writing, Grace Rhodes was an alternate to state with a fourth place finish in a number sense. Aiden Gertizer qualified for state with a second place finish. In science, Aiden Gertizer was alternate to state with a fourth place finish. And in social studies, first place was Daniel Duke. He qualified for state. Second place team with Cade Killian, Anthony Tovar, and Joseph Ratliff, alternates to state. And at the state meet, Daniel Duke finished second overall. Informative speaking, first at region was Brendan Hurt, qualified for state. Poetry interpretation, second Mason Kirby, qualified for state. In prose interpretation, fourth Adeline Falona was alternate to state. First place team overall at region, and the team speech combines the totals of informative speaking, poetry interpretation, and prose interpretation. So you can see our UIL academics killed it. And currently we stand 7th place in the state. We beat every team out of our region at the state meet, and we still have the speaking events to go. And so that place could change here in the next couple of weeks. So very proud of them. The Pure Gold Jazz Band had their spring concert and was held on Thursday, April the 28th. Big turnout for that. And we have our first CNA pinning ceremony, 7 o'clock Wednesday, May 11th at the PAC. Dr. Hood has really done just an outstanding job with that program. And also Reagan Berry has worked so hard in getting that program established. And they're just, they're doing well on the exams and passing the tests and making the pinning ceremony. Very proud of all of them. In some of the sporting events, district track, girls were district champions and the boys finished fourth. And India Maroney qualified for state in the high jump. And in softball news, softball finished second in district and defeated Amarillo Caprock in the first round of the state playoffs. They defeated El Paso Chapin. In the second round, they will play Canyon Randall in round 3. They swept all the games in the first 2 rounds. The series will be played at Lubbock Cooper Thursday, May 12th at 6:30. Game 2 will be Friday, May 13th at noon. And if needed, Game 3 will follow 30 minutes after Game 2. In baseball finished second in district and defeated Plainview in the first round. They swept Plainview in the first round of the playoffs. And they will play El Paso, El Dorado in round 2 in Fort Stockton. Game 1 will be held on Friday, May 13th at 5 o'clock. Game 2 Saturday, May 14th at 11 o'clock. And Game 3, if needed, will be follow 30 minutes after the conclusion of Game 2. Carlos Balderon was selected to the All-State Symphonic Band, so very proud of him. And then we had Kenya Maroney, Caroline Stedman, and Avery Brecken. These 3 students were named to the UIL Basketball Academic All-State Team. And so you can see our kids are really doing well. And our coaches, teachers that have been working with them so hard. And one of my goals has been to capture the UIL Academic State Championship before my retirement. We didn't quite make that, but man, we sure made some powerful strides. And they are sitting there ready to take to the next level. And I really see the state championships in the near future for the school. And I just want to say this. This is my last board report. And I just want to say ditto to Mr. Goodenough, and I will thank everybody for all the support. But we chose this as a career. And it's been a great career. I mean, I'm talking about for myself, it's been a great career. If I had to do over again, I wouldn't change a thing. I have no regrets. I've enjoyed every moment of it. I shouldn't say every moment, but I've enjoyed it overall. It's been a great career. But you know, that's what we chose as careers. But I really believe that the backbone of our success is based on volunteerism. And when I look at the time that this group right here puts in for the betterment of our kids in our district, I just want to say thank you very much. Since I've been at Wylie, I've worked with the finest school boards. You know, it's hard for me sometimes when I hear people being critical of our school board or any school board, because I mean, you're there because you want to be, you chose to be. There's no monetary incentive for you to do what you do. You do it just because you have a calling to serve. And your decisions, just like ours, are not always going to be perfect. They're not always going to be popular. But you stand up and you do what is right, and you vote your heart. And I just want to say thank you very much. It's been a great honor and privilege. Thank you.
Mr. Smith, you're welcome to come back and visit a board meeting anytime.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the invite.
We might even give you an opportunity to give a report.
No time limit?
I wouldn't go that far.
I'm so proud of Mr. Smith. You know, I took him on as a pup back in 1980. What, Mr. Smith?
89.
89, and look how he's grown up.
I got total approval.
I'm proud of you, Mr. Smith.
Thank to all you guys. Been quite a year. Quite a year. I don't guess we'll really have a report next month, will we?
Nope. We're out of reports.
I'm sorry, y'all are still gonna have to show up. Mr. Light, tell us about baccalaureate graduation. I know Mr. Smith did. It's on the agenda, so you gotta say something.
I'll just reiterate what Mr. Smith said, and so if you have any questions about seating or anything like that, we'll be glad to help you. So we'll be, Mr. Smith has already gotten out duties for all of us. This is a big event for us, and I'm glad it's inside the Expo Center because we've experienced outside, and
that was wet.
That was not good. So Chris McCurley will do a great job with baccalaureate. Looking forward to that as well.
Great. Next is board workshops and meetings.
Yes, sir. Before you see our schedule of meetings this summer, June, July, August, we have budget workshops prior to our regular board meetings. And then August 29th, we have a special board meeting to adopt our tax rate, our budget, and that's the last meeting of the fiscal year. So we'll have already started school by that time for the next school year. But,
Carol, I'm sorry you're gonna have to be ready for that meeting on the 13th.
She'll be.
I know you will be. All right. Anybody have any questions about those? They usually provide dinner, I think.
We have, that's correct. Desiree does a great job of keeping that interesting.
The shed should be open by now.
It should be.
There we go. Good job.
That's a hint.
Good job.
Okay. Let's see, construction update.
Just real quick, most of you know that we now have all of our field lighting, softball, baseball, and our tennis lighting is in place. Now the remote control unit is not in. I talked to him this morning, Mike Buckskemper, and he said they didn't give him a date when that would be in. He did say we're gonna do a walkthrough on Friday. He didn't know exactly what time he would be here for that, but he's gonna let us know Thursday afternoon. And so, you know, we will continue to hold retainage on that project until it's complete. We've also talked to you before about, we've had a wonderful donation from an individual in our community, Betty Mauser. I don't know if I was supposed to say that, but she's been a big fan of our CTE programs, and she's helping us with our electrical course that we're offering this year. And we're looking at a shop right next to our current shop that she's gonna help us do, and we're going to do that in-house. We'll take care of that, and it's gonna be a metal building. It'll basically match the building we've got there, and so we're really excited about that. Anybody?
Is that gonna be by the Ag Barn?
It's gonna be parallel. Yeah, we're gonna have to move at least one forward. We think the one close to the greenhouse, so we're gonna try to make it to where it's close to the greenhouse and close to the shop, so they can use it as they need it. Also, just so you know, we are working on we'll be grass seeding the East Intermediate soon. It's about that time where the ground temperature has gotten up.
We have the seed already.
We have the seed on site, and then there's gonna be some prep work that needs to be done. Hopefully we get a little more rain than we have so far this year, because that really stunted the growth of our winter rye. But anyway, so we'll be working on that. Also, I just wanted you to know that we have been talking to our youth soccer, baseball, and football about their needs for practice areas and some game areas as well. And we feel like the school district is really all we've got in this part of town. And so we are trying to piece together a partnership that will benefit our kids in those youth leagues. And we aren't there yet, but my thought is that if they can help us with expertise, whether it's somebody who knows how to do put in fields, somebody who is good in irrigation, they've got a ditcher, and we can pitch in pool funds with those leagues, so we don't have to bear the burden of that, because we would obviously, my thought is that we would take the watering on of those fields, and it will benefit us as well. So that is a goal that we are working on right now. If you've been by on any Saturday, Mr. Vaughn can tell you he's got grandkids involved. Any Saturday at the west side of the high school, it's like a fire ant bed over there that's been kicked. It is really busy over there, and I've said many times, I like our facilities to be used. I want our community to have access to it as much as we can, and so I think that's helping our kids. That's all that's doing. So the last soccer game is gonna be May 14th, and we are trying to work with them. That's a short leash, but if we can get somebody, again, tapping on their expertise that can help us with, maybe tilling the field, not necessarily plowing it. We don't need to plow, just something either one way or something in smooth, dragged and smooth, and then putting in the irrigation system. I've already talked to one guy that his job is, he's got a turf farm, and so he did let me know that turf farm is different than what sporting fields are about, because they literally come in, and they just strip the field, take the sod, the dirt and everything. But he gave me some good advice, so we're going to be working with him. I've already met with him a couple of times, and so just let you know some of the things we're trying to do. If y'all have any questions about any of that.
Long-range planning update, Mr. Wylie.
Yes, sir. So y'all have seen in some correspondence that we procured Robert Gadbois. I always struggle with that. He's gonna come over here and set up his laptop real quick. I don't know. And while he's doing that, I'm going to share with you some things back in, I believe, 2014, Robert. Is that the year that you originally 13-14 school year, he actually did a facility for us. But if you will think back, 13-14, we didn't have anything on the east side. We didn't have everything in place that we've got on the west side currently. What he's gonna be able to do is take the information that he had and then just add to it, what our, upgrades have been. And then, after the facility study, he is gonna, is already, Jackie, correct me if I'm wrong, but we already put out the survey.
We did.
And I'm gonna let Robert talk a little bit more about what his company does. Their company is Owners Building Resource.
Right. Do we have a remote by any chance?
I'm a remote.
You can be a remote.
Mr. That could be a remote.
All right, well, board members, Mr. Wylie, good to be with you tonight. Mr. Wylie was adamant that I keep this under an hour, so.
Very
I will be brief. We've actually just got our toes in the water on this thing, but, as he indicated, we have a lot of data from the last effort, and we're gonna be able to exploit that information and complement all the work that you guys have done today, with your capital improvements, with your demographic studies, and hopefully help you guys focus on a vision of where things need to go in the future. I know a lot of exciting things happen in the district, so real briefly, I'm just gonna talk you through some of the things we've done and some of the things we're going to do in the near future, because we've got a short window here where we have a captive audience with your staff on campuses. I know everybody's gonna be busy between now and the 27th. We're gonna try to garner some feedback. Everybody see that okay? It's not too bright. We prepared some online surveys that were distributed to the staff at all the campuses. And as of actually this morning, we had right at 200 responses already, which was great. These surveys are put together, it's evolved over the last several decades, really, from industry standards, Council of Education, Educational Facility Planning International, and our efforts as an educational planner to provide the end users of the facility the opportunity to literally go space by space. Science labs, art rooms, classrooms, administration, gutters, windows, parking, janitorial closets, food service, and go through all these specific spaces, most of which folks on campus have a pretty good knowledge about, and tell us whether or not they're adequate, they meet the needs, they're sufficient, or they need improvement. And so we're collecting that data, and we'll analyze that, compare that to last time. I know you have repurposed some of your buildings now with different grade years, and to respond to the growth. But these surveys are really, they're twofold. One, it gives us a foundation from which we can do our assessments and look at our analysis, but two, it kind of gives the folks on the campus some buy-in. So that when we go back to talk to them about what we see, they can give us their inherent knowledge of what's happening on their campuses. So we'll be taking that data and compiling that with you guys. One of the biggest things I think you're faced with now is capacity. You're growing, and there's a lot of things that affect capacity when we look at this. And for those that live on those campuses every day, I know back when some of us were in school, if you were struggling, you basically went to the resource room, and in there you got some help. But back in the 60s, we didn't think about ESL or diagnostics or speech therapy or reading recovery or math recovery or content mastery, and the list goes on. And so what's important when you look at how a building is utilized, I know we work with some districts and say, we built that school for 700 kids and we've got 512, and you're telling us we're over capacity. Well, that's because they've captured 11 classrooms out of that campus, and they're designated full-time for, recovery, for students to get them back on track. And so when we look at a campus and how it's utilized, we look at the four basic food groups, I guess, your math, science, your ELA, your social studies. But we also look at how, you spoke earlier, student to teacher ratios. Having raised two daughters that are teachers, and one of them had a genetic malfunction that made her want to be a middle school math teacher. She ended up in Northside San Antonio, in her first year out of school, she had 42 kids in one of her classes. So we had kids sitting on the floor. first of all, that's madness for middle school, but any school grade level really, but that focused instruction, because you may have a large component of special ed students in your classroom, but you also have, kids that are right on track, and teachers are forced to balance and address all of those student needs. And so keeping that ratio to a manageable level is an objective and a goal that we should try to establish through the planning process. And looking at this data will allow us to see where you're at, but then allow us to see what we need to do to address maybe where you want those targets to be. We address how those pull-out programs impact the spaces within your various campuses, and address all the resource and recovery classrooms. Look at how portable classrooms may or may not affect or improve the function of the campuses. You can pile up portables all you want to deal with your growth, but then you realize, wait a minute, we don't have enough bathrooms, we need more administrators on campus, the library's not big enough, the cafeteria's not big enough to serve the kids, now we're starting lunch at, 9:50 and finishing at 1:50. And so we look at how all those spaces relate, how they serve your respective campuses and your respective grade levels, and we want to be mindful of how all these components influence capacity throughout your campuses. Next slide, please. And so I'll pull up this slide. This is something we actually came up with or developed as part of our last effort. One of the things many years ago when we started this process, the TEA had guidelines for what some spaces within schools should be. How big should a classroom be? They were just guidelines. Several legislative sessions ago, they moved that out of the TEA's realm and put it in the administrative code. So Title 19 says, if you build a school in the state of Texas, classrooms will be this big. Science labs will be this big. Science classrooms will be this big. Libraries will be this big. And a lot of people don't know that in November they changed all the rules on us again. And they based the spacing criteria on what your instructional model looks like. If you are an old-fashioned line the kids up in desk and you look at the projector or the whiteboard, then your spatial requirements are this. You take it to the other end of the spectrum where you're engaging multimedia, you've got project-based learning, you've got collaboration between different classes, for instance, bringing math and science together in some type of instructional model. That changes the square foot criteria for classrooms in a school district. Well, if you're working with 30 or 40-year-old schools that still maybe have some shelf life on them, how do you provide that flexible collaborative space to reach your instructional goals? And so we look at how your classrooms benchmark against what the administrative code should be. And that allows us to look at how we might improve facilities. I guess the best analogy is we look at what your objectives are instructionally. House Bill 5, CTE, and all of those things, alternative endorsements. We talked about District of Innovation. It gives you great opportunities should some guy from MIT retire and he wants to teach a robotics class. And so we look at your facilities, we lay them over your instructional goals and objectives, and we say, all right, do these spaces handicap you or do they complement you? Do they augment what you're trying to do? And where we find deficiencies, we try to work with you to come up with strategies to address those deficiencies. When we look at your actual capacities within a building, there's things that get thrown out. I used the analogy earlier. We designed that school for 700 kids. You count the classrooms, you multiply times 22 or 25, how many kids you want in the class, that's your total capacity. That number differs substantially between an elementary campus and a secondary campus. Most of the time in an elementary campus, the kids are kind of self-contained. They might swap between their little pod, but pretty much self-contained unless they're going to computer lab or music or PE or something like that. Secondary is much different. You have the electives, students are more transient, and I can say if your goal is 25 to 1 in secondary, you're going to have 14 kids in Spanish 4 and you're going to have 29 kids in geometry. You never hit that magic number. And so we've got to balance that. Then you throw in the coaching model. Coaches have responsibilities throughout the day. And so it changes how classrooms, live and breathe throughout the day. And so we look at a functional capacity, and that is exactly how that building serves your instructional model and serves your students. And where does special ed go? Where do those resource and recovery classrooms go? And that creates what we call a functional capacity. And so we look at those variations to determine exactly what efficiency your buildings are being utilized, and try to make that as efficient as we can. We'll do that through the process, but we're mindful of the benchmarks with what the administrative code says those things should be. What's interesting about you guys is y'all, if you can one more time, have continued to steadily grow. Mr. Light said about 4%. You've been trucking along 2.9, 4.3 just since 2014 when we were here. And so you had capacity challenges then. I know you've got some capacity challenges at the high school. Some of the comments, we got a lot of colorful comments in the surveys. Some of them had a lot to do with facilities, some of them didn't. But at the end of the day, your teachers are in those buildings every day, and they see where your weak points are. They see where you've got some holes in the dike, and they've had some really good recommendations on maybe how to address that. None of them involved a noose, I'll say that, so you guys are safe. We also went through, as part of our assessment last time, and spent time in every campus and came up with a list of needs. And hats off to your staff. Your staff does a great job of putting those fires out when they come and addressing capital needs across the district. So your buildings are largely in good shape. We want to revisit that. We want to review what we had, review some of the steps that you guys have made in a positive direction since 2014, validate some of those needs, maybe identify some new ones, because we want to make sure you've got your eye steadily on what your maintenance challenges might be in years to come, roofs, air conditioning, those types of things. But we'll also revisit, with the energy code and some of the other things, if you make some modifications to your buildings, you're gonna have to make some changes, substantial changes potentially in your buildings to address code compliance. We'll look at accessibility, life safety issues. I always use the example, I come from Fremont, Texas, the booming metropolis of Fremont. We've got 420 kids in our school district, and I now have to walk into the vestibule. Here's my driver's license when she knows me, she scans it, I get the badge, and I can go in when my kids aren't picking more, but I have grandkids there now. But even small town Texas, we have to think about security, we have to think about safety of our staff and our kids. And so we'll go through that, we'll look at the civil, the structural, the architectural issues within your facilities and validate that capital improvement summary for you guys and put numbers to it. So that process is ongoing. And then we hope to spend some time, whether it's Zoom or on-site, but we want to go through all of your administrative disciplines and make sure we're not just looking at instruction, which is really our primary driving force, but how's your transportation set up, how you set up for CTE, are you good where you're at with all your extracurricular activities, special ed, so on and so forth, and make sure that we're identifying objectives and goals in our assessment so that we're taking care of where your folks think you should go, as well as you as the school board, when we develop our list of recommendations. And so moving forward, the goal is to, I said again, to spend some time with your campus leadership, pick their brains a little bit. We will go through the information that they send us to come up with some models for capacity at the various campuses so they can look at us and tell us whether we've lost our mind or whether we're on target. That's always a fun process. I tell the principals, that, for those of you here, that I live by the rule that there are no stupid questions. Only stupid people that ask questions. I'm an expert at that. So I will challenge them on different things of their campuses system. Explain this to me. Why are you guys doing it this way? What are you trying to achieve? And I think back years ago in '97 or so, when computers were really hitting hard in the classrooms and those things were heating up classrooms, and I would go to a Grapevine Colleyville and they would say, we need 3 more computer labs. That's great. Well, then I'd go to South Lake Carroll and they would want 5 more computers in every classroom. And the mindset was completely different in 2 very affluent, growing school districts. And that hasn't changed. I use that as an example, but your folks that are in the trenches know what the objectives are. They know what the challenges are, at least this year. The state may change it next year. But they know where the challenges are, and so we really want to pick their brains on that and come up with ideas. And our job is to sort of challenge them on spaces and utilization and that type of thing, and tap that resource to make sure we come back with a solid plan for you guys. So we'll do some campus interviews, maybe electronically, maybe on site. We'll take our assessment review, sort of refine our budgets and sort of begin to come up with some priorities, and I always use the term, look at opportunities. What opportunities exist within the real estate that you have, within the assets that you have, to address some of these challenges without going whole hog. This is it's a planning effort. For those of you that aren't familiar with us, we're a licensed engineering firm. We're architects, we're engineers, we're construction folks. We don't want to design it. We don't want to build it. We're here as a resource for you guys. So we're not in this with something at the end of the rainbow that we're going to design the next new something for Wylie. We're in this to help you guys put a roadmap together. And so once we begin to develop and formulate some of those opportunities, we'll probably come back to you guys and say, give us some stakeholders, give us some folks in your community that we can share this information that's not just coming from us, but it's coming from your staff. It's a team effort, and this is what we're seeing, this is the data. Now you should tell us what you see as taxpayers, as business leaders, as parents, and as staff in the district, and together come up and formulate some recommendations that we can then bring back to you that you can use as sort of your roadmap for moving into the future. And that's kind of where we're at. We're diving into it now. We've got a lot of work to do in the coming weeks, but we're excited about the opportunity and excited about some of the data that we're starting to see. So any questions, thoughts, comments?
So let me just say, as Robert goes through this process, then we will come with discussions with y'all about what he finds out. And I am excited because I've seen him work in the past, and he gives options, recommendations. These are things that I think would be beneficial. These are things that I would recommend. I can tell you, when we went through this process originally, we did some of that, and we didn't do some of that. But again, that's, to me, that's really what we're asking them for. He mentioned a minute ago that they aren't gonna be doing a building project for us. I've seen a lot of different strategies for long-range facilities planning, and a lot of time, the architect of a school district is leading that effort. And I just think it's important to have somebody who's really independent of that process to be able to come in and say, this is what we're seeing, and now with that information, if we make a decision to go toward an architect and say, this is what we're looking at, then they're really two different groups. They're not, he doesn't benefit by making a recommendation for us to add on at the high school or to add a campus here or anything like that. So, looking forward to the process. And again, if y'all have any questions about the process, we've talked about this a little bit as far as, we have tried to stay ahead of the curve. It's getting more difficult to stay ahead of the student growth curve. And, we're gonna have to be making some decisions in the future, so. Question?
When do you think we would start seeing some of those recommendations come to us?
I'm gonna depend on Mr. Light to give me some direction based on his conversation with you guys. When I walk into a building, probably much like Mr. Light does, and a lot of his administrators and principals that live it every day, and teachers, sometimes it's immediate, we see it, okay? But that is not necessarily the way we go through the process. We want to listen to the teachers, we want to listen to your staff, and we want to challenge them on their expectations and where they see holes. But too many times we've seen districts bring the architect on board, and some folks disappear in a black hole, they come up with a schematic and they go, all right, this is what we think we're gonna do. To me, it's successful, statistic, but not to a high rate of success. Because I would rather that recommendation come from your community based on the data. The data's gonna tell you what makes the most sense. That's not what everybody always agrees with, but the data, as long as we keep instruction as our guidepost, we'll end up with 1 or 2 or 3 options that make the most sense. And so, that's a long answer to say, we will have good data within the next few weeks. Now, how that data is filtered and how recommendations evolve out of that is gonna be largely based on your discretion. As I said, I'd like to sit down with a community group and let them filter it. You guys, nothing's gonna happen immediately. So we would have the summer months maybe to sit down with community members over the course of a few months to kind of, guys, here's what we're seeing, what do you think? Maybe throw in a facility tour or two, but honestly, you're so much more successful, when you back up, as a former board member, it's much easier sitting there making a decision when you have community members that participated in a planning process and they believe in it. Because when you're talking about 7 figures, 8 figures, it's a tough decision to begin with. It's much easier to have the confidence to make that decision if you know your staff's behind it and your community's behind it, because they were part of the planning process. So when we sit down, we don't wanna say, hey, you guys need 3 new elementaries, that's all the problem. We wanna show them the data and somebody say, why aren't we building new elementaries? And that's just an example, but again, it's easy for us to see it. It's harder for us to sell it if they don't see it first. When we try to pitch it to them, it's a little bit harder. So it's I don't like the word organic, but it should be Wylie's plan, not OVR's plan. We can generate the data and we can see what we think needs to happen. But I want folks to see that data and see the same thing. That's how we go through the process of building consensus with your staff and community. This is truly a community-based plan. Big fan of that. That's good stuff.
Anybody else? I'll stay in touch with him. I've actually gotta give him some more information. He's requested some information that I've gotten him part of it. I hadn't gotten him all of it, but we'll come up with a game plan of where to go from here, and may involve a couple of, we kind of set out our summer plan. We may have to deviate a little bit or add a meeting there, here and there, and add a building committee or long-range planning committee that's a little separate from y'all, so y'all don't have to do all the work. So.
Was that the first survey that went out?
That was the first, a matter of fact, we had one that was done in 2013 or 14.
We've got the one from last time, yeah.
But
you were one campus shy of where you are now. Actually, this building was under construction when we were here.
That's correct.
So, the face of and your grade alignment was much different than it is now. And so, we'll look at all that. I mean, we'll take into consideration accountability and what makes the most sense for students and student transition and moving through multiple campuses, and what's best for the students, but also economical, and keeps you guys in a posture where you're not having to continually respond to growth. That's not the right way to say it. Have a growth management strategy so that you minimize the amount of time you move kids. We've worked with some of the fastest growing districts in the state, and the one thing we try to focus on is if you put a kid in an elementary, you should try to stay there as long as you can, whatever that grade tier structure is. And some districts, without that growth management strategy, first grader ends up being in a new school at 2nd grade, and because of the roads moved, another school in 3rd grade, and that's the worst time to be moving a kid each year. So we'll work through all those challenges as well.
This really helps. Thank you for being here, because it really helped us make some of these other decisions in the past. But just thinking, I would really like to see where we missed the mark or made some mistakes, since you have the 2013 and 2014 data, if you don't mind.
I don't know that mistake is kind of a hard word, because honestly, this is only one of 1,000 things you guys get to vote on. Sure. And one of 10,000 things you probably juggle on a day-to-day basis. So it's easy for us to be a Monday morning quarterback. So what I would like to approach it, the perspective I'd like to approach it from is, okay, that didn't work, but we could try this.
You can be gentle with us, but yeah.
I think having the most up-to-date data from him on our neighborhoods and stuff like that is gonna be the key.
And he, as you say, that's big, and we've given him the latest demographic report. Now, that doesn't in and of itself tell all that data, but, we do have a lot of that in, and there's, even since we put that thing, to rest, we've had more developments go online. It's just been really a challenge to stay ahead of.
And again, we may identify things, but as a board and as an administration, you have to understand it's kind of like you make a call in the fourth quarter, you gotta make a call. You get new information from the state, guys, by the way, we're changing all of our criteria, this is what you have to do. And oh, by the way, teachers, you can't really disaggregate the data until after they've taken the test and you're already in the next school year. Oh, by the way, we're gonna change the standards then. So you're working with that. You've got growth coming. You also have a culture of, this is how our schools are set up, and we've been like this forever. And when you think about changing that, now you're changing a culture. You're changing student pickup, you're changing parent drop-off. There's a lot of tangibles, intangibles, and frankly, emotion involved in a lot of those decisions. They're data-driven decisions, but they don't always have just a smooth impact. And so school boards sometimes make those decisions. Maybe it's the least painful, makes at the time the most fiscal sense, but then, you know, we work in districts like LaGrange that wake up one day and they're serving their elementary campus on 19 non-contiguous buildings. Because, oh, we need this, so they would build a building on this property. And so it's easy to say, yeah, this should have done this, but it's done. So how to, again, focus on what's your objectives, and do the buildings complement that, or do they handicap? If we stay on that course, then we'll generally come up with a good plan. I always say, the last thing I want is another hotshot Aggie to come in here 20 years from now, or the T-Center and say, all right, what were you thinking? You know, what were you thinking? But no, it can be a fun process. It can be a little unnerving, but if we start with the foundation of your staff, and we take that data, and then we filter it through the community with their expectations, we'll generally, inevitably end up in the right spot.
I don't think it's a shortcut process. There's nothing that is gonna be easy, and it's not gonna be a quick thing. I think it takes time to do all these things, and so.
It does. We've had districts where I've stood here and 90 days later, we've got a pretty good plan. And I've had districts where 2 years later, we've got a good plan. I wanna facilitate the process, and I wanna drive it. And so if it takes a while to get staff, community on board with some options that, you know, some may be a struggle, then we'll take that time to go through that with you guys.
We're always glad to have a hotshot Aggie come
There you
in
go.
and talk to us. Anybody else have any questions for Robert? Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Oh, yeah. Appreciate you, Mr. Amonette, for driving.
Yes, sir.
Yes, thank you very much.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for being here. We're going into executive session.